Alright, so I'm going to teach you today something called interface. I hope you are catching up when you're reading. So, the last time we talked about something called abstract classes. That was last time. And this abstract class means that you had to have a child class in order to use it. Although you can have all the majority or whatever methods you think they are common in multiple child classes or children classes. So some of the classes, for instance, when you work in a team, there's a quiz there, get a chance. For instance, in a team, one person develops certain parts, and before you start a project, you set a set of rules you're going to follow. Usually a name and convention, how you're going to name things, how you're going to connect to the databases and stuff. But sometimes when the project is big, it could be very lengthy, your set of rules. For instance, I have a method that saves my whatever form to a database. So I created a method called save. But somebody else created a method called update. They do the same basically. I mean, each window saves to a different table in the database. But every time you click on that floppy disk icon, you hope that data is saved. Maybe I call it new when I add a record, and this other person called it insert. And even in Java, it's case sensitive. You might have a same name of the method, but maybe you spell it different in different cases. So instead of doing that, we're going to come up with some methods that all our forms should have. Security is another thing. You may have something that you have access to see, but not to update. You don't, or might be just disabled on the screen that you see it's there, but you can't do anything about it, or it's completely invisible to you. So it would be nice if we can create some abstract methods and each one of the members of the team can implement based on their specific functions. For instance, I could have a method called save. And I could have another method for delete. And I can group all my methods that are relevant in the same class. So if you have taken or you will take C or C++, you will learn something about something called prototypes. Prototype means you're going to declare something, but you're not going to write the code that goes inside the method. You're just going to create one. And it's going to tell the computer that you're going to create it later. So if I were to have a class, I'm gonna call this one database, right? Another class can only be inherited from one class, right? So how do I include another class also? I have two classes. I call security. And this one I have a method that says it'll be an integer here. And think some objects, this parameter. So how do I combine these two into this other class, into a child class? I can't. Because a child class can only be derived or inherited from a parent class. So somebody said, well, let's make interfaces instead then. So instead of calling these classes, we're gonna call them interface. And instead of implementing these methods here, I'm just gonna put some, just terminate them here. So basically, it's just the methods declarations. They're not implemented inside my interface. So this is as a prototype. So, in order to implement it in one class, in derive one class, I can, whatever class I have, I can implement an interface. So let's say I have this implemented, I want to implement the database interface. What does that mean when I implement? That means that this class should have a method type void is forcing me to have it, called save. But in here, I do implement. And of course, this class doesn't have to be abstract. So all it is saying that if I implement the interface, I need to have all the methods that that interface have implemented here. Otherwise, it will not compile. Let's say I want to implement the security too. And put a comma. Now, I'm forced to implement this. And of course, I have to have some code here. So you can implement as many as you want. Why do we do this? For instance, we were talking about GUIs, and we made this form for the quadratic formula, right? So we learned that there's a class called JButton, and we made our own buttons, right? But what happens, a button's very generic. So really, the button in this form might do something else in this other form, and you can have multiple buttons in one form and so on. But all the buttons do something when you click on them, right? So there's an interface called a click, but each button will implement exactly what they do differently, if that makes any sense. So far so good. So let's go back to the form we did last time, and we're gonna create a couple of interfaces for ourselves. All right.